transcends media?
For me, the answer is that I really didn't know what I was doing. And I didn't know what I was meant to be doing, and I didn't know how to do it. And I did it anyway. Mm-hmm. And that just doing it also meant that everything I was seeing, everybody I met, every thought going through my head made it onto the page. And every way that I could tell stories, I was telling stories, I was trying new things. And I think that it hasn't aged and it hasn't dated in probably the way that it should. You can absolutely see places where it's completely of its time, and you can see places where my heart was in the right place, but I didn't have a clue what I was doing. And I think that's fine and that's forgivable, because overall, I think I, along with dozens of astonishing artists and along with people who are unsung, like Todd Klein, our amazing letterer, who did miracles that then nobody notices are there, creating lettering font styles for characters like Delirium or Dream or Desire. I thought I was making something completely disposable. If I'd known I was making something that would last, I probably would have had a lot more attention, and it probably wouldn't have worked.
How about the rest of you? Why does it transcend for all of you think?
Like I said, it sort of changed my world, really. It gave me an introduction to things that have had a huge impact on my life and who I am today. And it led me, it is a story about stories. And as such, as Neil said, he wanted to come up with something that allowed him to tell whatever story he wanted. And because of that, it roams across time and space and through mythology and history and Shakespeare, it was such an explosion of the imagination and creativity. And yet at the same time was grounded in a real kind of edgy, earthy realism as well. So it had something for everyone, but instead of being a kind of jack of all trades, it seemed so specific. And it was just like, it's like when I, as an actor working on Shakespeare, you can literally feel your brain expanding, like your consciousness growing because of what Shakespeare does in his plays. And reading The Sandman was a similar experience for me. I could feel my consciousness getting bigger because of what was in it and what it introduced me to. And because it is about sort of primal, deep things like the dreaming, like reality and concepts like fairy, and it of course it's timeless. It's about the endless, and the story itself is endless, and so it will go on forever.
Speaking from the point of view of adapting it to another medium, what's great about it is that it's doing everything that Michael's just described. It's this enormously, the conceit of it, and I'm not using conceit pejoratively there, but the scale of the imagination, all of Neil's misspent years in libraries as a kid, all that reading is just pouring out on the page, a sort of torrent, like a dump tank of ideas. And to have started this journey in audio, particularly where we're sticking very close to the originals, is great, because I know, well, we all know where it's going to go, but the journey of discovery is getting an actor. When Michael comes in and starts playing Lucifer, I'm thinking, oh, wow, I can't wait to hear where this is going to go. And of course, we have all that to look forward to, and the rest of the cast as well. So, hats off to Neil. It's an astonishing piece of work.
Willow, how about you? Why do you think The Sandman endures?
To me, what was really astonishing about Sandman, especially the first time that I read it through as a teenager, was that unexpected people were at the center of the story. I think, we're kind of taught to look to the most obvious figures to be heroes, the politicians, the famous people, all of this. Whereas in Sandman, the guy sitting next to us could be Lucifer or the King of Dreams. And as such, you get stories about characters who I think were kind of pushed to the margins, especially at the time in other types of stories, right? And now they're at the center. And that makes you look twice at the world around you. It makes you sort of question, who is telling the story, and what point of views are we missing, and who is unmourned. I mean, that also really struck me, is that, like, this came out in the middle of the AIDS epidemic when, a lot of people were trying to push, these deaths and this terrible thing that was happening under the rug. And Sandman said, no, pay attention. This is important. These people are important. And that was very striking to me. And I think that's part of the reason that it still feels so relevant, because it kind of reminds you there are still stories we haven't heard. There's still things we're afraid to talk about. And it's the people around you who could be the true spinners of tales. And that really has stuck with me through the years.
Well, that answer was amazing.
I've thought about this a lot.
Oh, gosh, it was so good, you will. I want to thank all of you for this wonderful time. I had the best time talking to all of you. But before we go, we can't forget about the dedicated fans. We asked and they responded, and we get it. You want to know about the Netflix show. So, Neil, can you tell us anything? We've been asked about when it will be released. We've been asked about the cast details. What can you tell us, Neil?
Well, I can tell you that due to COVID, everything, as with every other piece of television being made around the world right now, somebody pushed a giant pause button. And we've taken advantage of our pause button just to try and get the scripts as close to perfect as we possibly could, which has been really fun. And that right now, as the universal pause button is starting to come off, we're starting to cast again. I'm getting these inspiring and wonderful emails with production designs, with places that I've only ever seen in the comics before, now being rendered in 3D, and I'm being asked to comment on it. That's amazing. There's not a lot I can say. Something that I will say is part of the joy of doing the audio adaptation was going, this is going to be the nearest thing we can do to an audiobook of those first 3 graphic novels, and hopefully all of the graphic novels. And we're going to start it in 1988. And it's going to end in about 1991 or 1992. Sandman is a very compressed story, even though it takes place all through time and space. That's where that story takes place. What we're doing with Netflix is saying, okay, it's still going to start in 1916, but the thing that happens in Sandman 1, the point that the story starts, is not 1988, it's now. And how does that change the story? What does that give us? What does that make us have to look at that we wouldn't have had to look at if we were setting it as a period piece? What is that going to do to the gender of characters? What is that going to do to the nature of characters? What's that going to do to the story? And that has been an absolute delight, because it means we are always being true to the story and being true to the characters, but it gives us tremendous freedom to go, okay, if we were doing it now, what would Sandman be? And that, again, is very liberating.
Well, as a fan myself, I cannot wait to see it. And I just wanted to share that I was a tiny part of the Sandman universe. Check this out. It's a drawing by artist Domo Stanton of me flying through the city.
Lovely.
Mm-hmm. That look good. Well, thank you all so much. It's been wonderful chatting about the Sandman. Thank you, G. Willow, Dirk Maggs, Michael Sheen, and of course, Neil Gaiman. Thanks for joining us, and enjoy the rest of DC FanDome.
Dreams, nightmares, demigods, and fallen angels, I am officially in and can't wait to dig into Sandman. Right now, let's get back to hearing from our fans and see what questions they or maybe even you have.
already Batwoman kind of stands out because she doesn't technically have like a superpower. Everything that she uses to fight bad guys is more of her intelligence and in Luke and her physical strength. So I do look forward to seeing that, or for playing in that perspective, like from a Ryan perspective, from like this street kid's perspective, from a person that saw these superheroes growing up, because that was also really important for Ryan, you know, to see Batwoman be an out lesbian and to have a, you know, a superhero role model to look up to. And then now all of a sudden I'm filling those shoes. So to not only fill those shoes, but to play amongst the ones that have already been doing it, I think that that's going to be a lot for her. I'm sure it's going to be a culture shock for her. But I also think that it's really cool because it's really like when that world meets the superhero world in all of its dynamics.
Hola, mi gente. I'm Gabby Cam, your host from Mexico City. For nearly 60 years, DC has played with the intriguing concept of the multiverse. It allows multiple dimensions all to exist at the same time, which means multiple versions of me could actually exist right now. And not only that, on these other worlds, I could be a different gender, ethnicity, a villain, or even an alien. I wish I knew what kind of alien I would be. Maybe in this panel, I will find out.
The multiverse has been at the heart of DC almost from the very start. But the moment most fans think of is this one. In the Silver Age of comics, when the Flash met the Flash in 1961. In Flash of Two Worlds, DC created a story where the Flash could be Barry Allen and Jay Garrick at the very same time, and created the architecture that would allow DC to be expansive, inclusive in their storytelling and in their universe, and is the world that fans now know, and also laid the groundwork for the ambitious crossover event, Crisis on Infinite Earths. Crisis on Infinite Earths brought the DC multiverse to fans, bringing together DC superheroes and supervillains in a truly epic event. But this is not the first time DC has explored the multiverse, and trust me, it will not be the last time fans will see it, as DC is fully embracing this exciting creative concept and how it can open up endless opportunities for storytelling for our comic books, TV shows, film, and games creators. Here in the DC FanDome, I am so excited to have our own crossover moment and talk about what the multiverse really is for DC, how it informs every story DC tells, and how fans can expect to see it on the page or on the screen moving forward. I'm Tiffany Smith, and I'm so excited to welcome our panelists here today. First up, we have got a legendary comic book artist in his own right. He is also the chief creative officer and publisher for DC, and he sits at the heart of everything DC does and is a master of the multiverse, Jim Lee.
Thank you.
Next up, he oversees DC's films, which run the gamut from The Joker to Aquaman, and has huge plans for where DC movies are about to go next. Walter Hamada. How you doing, sir?
Hello, I'm good. Great to be here.
And finally, one of the key architects of DC's Arrowverse and the amazing Crisis crossover event, he is executive producer of nearly a dozen fan-favorite DC shows like Batwoman, The Flash, Supergirl, Doom Patrol, Titans, and the upcoming Superman and Lois, and many, many more. It's Greg Berlanti. How are you?
Very good, very good. Great to be here.
Let's just kind of go to the top of it, and I'm going to go to you, Jim. What exactly is the DC multiverse for people who may not know?
Yeah, I think when people think about superheroes, they know the names, the costumes, the powers, the origins, and it kind of tends to be this sort of monolithic kind of thing. But one of the things that really is distinct and unique to DC is that it's the first large work of fiction that has leaned upon this idea that we are not alone. We have this reality, this earth, but that there are alternate realities that sit side by side with us, and they're infinite number. And on each of these different earths, we exist, but maybe in slightly different variations, right? We might be a different gender on another planet, or we might be furry creatures. And this extends to all the superheroes. So you start seeing this kind of endless spectrum of characters that you can create. And so it allows us to have the freedom and to create different versions and then lean upon that canon as we, change up the mythology and the pantheon of characters to better reflect the true diversity and inclusivity that our audiences want and that our audiences live in.
And you kind of touched on it already, Jim, but let's go to you, Greg. How do you feel like the multiverse really informs the stories that you tell through DC TV?
I would say that when we started out just with Arrow 8-9 years ago now, it wasn't our intention to replicate what everyone had done so brilliantly in comics, and it wasn't until the Flash came along, and we tried in the pilot of the Flash to put the two of them on screen together, that I remember watching that first scene of the two of them together and thinking like, oh wow, this makes me feel like the DC books made me feel, like 1 + 1 = 3. The other thing it allows for is the vastness. You really feel the vastness of each of these different worlds, and I think it adds to the importance of these heroes and the myth of them, and that's been really exciting. And again, the element of surprise. If the universe that everyone's constructing, the different showrunners and creators and directors, and obviously with Walter and Jim helping shepherd all of it, if it can go to all those different places and still be tethered together, I think just as an audience member, I want to show up and not know, like, who might I see here, and I think that's incredibly exciting.
Well, and I think it's something too where, we talk about comic book writers getting to play with the characters in different ways. Same thing on the TV shows, where it's when you bring a character from one show into another show, those writers now get to play with that character or a different version of them, which I think the fans, myself included, have loved seeing on TV.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun for the actors. They love it when they play a villain version of themselves from another planet. Everybody loves to play a villain.
You face some of the greatest evils known to man, and you've defeated them. But if you think so highly of yourselves that you can defeat any threat that comes your way,
how do you feel about us?
And like you said, you weren't really thinking at the outset about getting to this place of Crisis on Infinite Earths and seeing all of that. Can you talk to us a little bit about just leading up to that and everything that happened before, and maybe like when you got to the point where you're like, yeah, this is something we really want to talk about?
Well, I mean, really, it was so much of our motto behind the scenes was to try and create episodes and seasons and shows that we would want to watch. And so it just inevitably kind of kept going in that direction. One of my fellow EPs, Mark Guggenheim, is my own personal encyclopedia for a lot of knowledge of these things, and was really, the centerpiece of production-wise pulling the scope of those things together. And I would be remiss if I didn't just say just how much his own passion for all that has been, very inspiring. But we sort of kept, building block by block, and then truly in the last couple of years, and again, in working with Walter and with Jim, it's kind of taken a whole new level. We never thought we'd even be allowed to do Crisis, it was a pipe dream. We just kind of kept finding new ways to get all of our characters together. And then, the year before we did Crisis, we said, well, what if we just say coming next year, Crisis, and everyone's like, okay, yeah, you can say that. Well, and I was like, well, I guess they've approved it then. Now it's good to go. And that it was really epic. I mean, there were just so many, obviously, so many Easter eggs and so many different little characters. But then, the guys calling about saying that if we could we possibly fit in Ezra? Is that a possibility? That's really for the first time historically combining a TV character and a film character in that way. I think it feels like the beginning of a whole new generation of how we can begin to do these things. And that's just as a storyteller, that's really, really exciting.
Well, I feel like a kid in a candy store being like, we got Crisis on Infinite Earths, what's next? But can you talk a little bit about what's going to happen in the world's post Crisis on Infinite Earths?
Well, we are, yes, because certain worlds have been combined, we're mindful of that now, in terms of how that will affect certain shows. And, in terms of what our crossover event will be next year, I think truly because of COVID right now and the pandemic, our aspirations aren't quite as large. We'd just like to start shooting again. That would be, nice. happy to invite any feature characters that the guys want to have on. I think that was truly a thrill.
How did that crossover event happen with Ezra? And talk about the conversation of when you guys were like, could this work? Can we get him here?
We'd been developing on the feature side our Flash script for a while, which was leaning into the idea of the multiverse and playing in that sandbox. And again, I'm focused very much on the movies and what we're doing. And Jim was just like, would you, since we're leaning into the multiverse, do you think Ezra would ever do this crossover? I picked up the phone, called him, and before I could even finish the pitch, he was like, I'm in. Tell me when, where. Like, he's just such a fan, I think, of the character and I think of the universe, and he understands the importance of Flash and the character of his role sort of in that idea of the multiverse, that he immediately jumped on it. And then at that point, it was just Jim ran with it.
We were in a meeting. I think it was Walter, me, Peter Roth was there. We kind of threw out this idea, and Peter was like, let me talk to Greg about this. And this was last minute too, right?
But we had shot the crossover. So
yeah, exactly. This is like right before the holidays.
You were editing. And then first call was like, well, wait a second. Can Flash also bring us back in time to do this? Because,
exactly. Yeah, so we're on the holidays. I knew that we're down the wire, but I knew how meaningful this would be to the fans, just because Flash's meeting created the multiverse. That the fact that this had never been done before, and that this was new footage. A lot of the stuff, like with Green Lantern, was kind of old footage. This is new stuff, and we had to track down the costume for Ezra. Luckily, he still fit into it. And Peter, spoke with Greg, and Greg graciously allowed us to do this at the last minute, very last minute. And Mark wrote dialogue at the last second, sent it over. It had to be kind of vague enough to not create too many expectations, but kind of solidify the fact that this is happening, that these Flashes are both the Flash in different universes. And the cool thing is, Ezra's Flash was never named the Flash in the movies. He got his name from meeting Grant, who knew he was the Flash. And that's like so cool to have that introduction into the canon, right? And so that was it. And it came together at the last minute, and it worked out great. Those guys kind of improvised the lines, and
they definitely improvised.
There's a lot of improvisation.
It was touching and funny, and it was just a great moment. And then when it went live, man, people's heads exploded. And then I think,
there were a lot of people who worked on the show and had shot the episode and didn't know that it was in there. So they were watching. There were people that had been in the episode that were watching it live that night that wrote me. Said, I didn't know about this. Did you keep this a secret from me? And I was like, no, I wasn't. We just did it last week.
Yeah.
Is this cosplay? Oh, do you want a selfie, bro? I'm sorry.
We're not. No. I'm also the Flash.
You're also the what?
The Flash.
The Flash? The Flash?
It's complicated.
I like your outfit. It seems comfy.
Yours is pretty cool.
Smooth.
Seems safe and
breathable. About Barry Allen. No! What does that mean? How can this...
This should be impossible now.
It should be impossible now?
You don't know about the...
Oh my God, don't do this to me. I don't know about the what.
Well, and kind of talk about that, Greg, because I know just the crossover events are such a big to-do anyway, getting all of the actors from all of the shows and the sets and everything working together at the same pace and timing, and then now throwing in the film piece as well. I feel like all of you guys, just from talking to you and, knowing you a little bit, that you're a huge fan. So you're like, we'll do anything to make it work. But what was that moment like for you?
Well, I was honestly, I really do experience these shows just as a fan first. And so when I heard it, I just thought I would want to see that. I would want to see that, let alone be a part of it. And whenever anybody in this business is doing stuff from that place of like, how can we make this thing the best it can be? And how can we deliver something to everybody and that, understands and loves these characters as much as we do? Then the impossible stuff that seems impossible ends up becoming possible.
I think up to this point, we were the company was just organized in a way where TV was TV and film was film. And oftentimes DC and Jim was sort of the arbiter of like, hey, they want to use this character, using this character. And it became this like really weird situation where the fans don't, they love the characters. They just want to see the characters. And this sort of opens the door for us to do more crossovers, to really lean into this idea and just acknowledge the fact that there can be a Flash on TV and one in the movies, and you don't have to pick one or the other. You can love both, and they do both exist in this great multiverse. And I do think that moving forward, there's more opportunities for us to do things like this. And really, it at the end of the day, it's about the fans, and I think the fans want to see it. And it gives us a way to sort of explore maybe some different stories and different ideas and use the medium in a different way than it's been used thus far.
We can just dive in a little bit more into the DC films. Walter, for you, what does the multiverse really mean?
What the multiverse allows you to do is sort of lean into this idea of you can tell just great stories, and you don't have to really be as focused on it has to fit within a singular continuity. On one Earth, we have our Gal and Jason and Ezra version of the Justice League, and we can continue telling those stories. While on a separate Earth, we don't have to worry about the continuity. We can have a more grounded, real year 2 Batman and build out that world and not really worry about continuity, story elements, and et cetera. And so it's really kind of the best of both worlds and allows us to take advantage of everything that's great about what we've done and really allow us to sort of expand moving forward. And we're trying to keep it as simple as that. Like there is that one Earth, the greater Earth of sort of this existing Justice League, and then the beginnings of another Earth that is sort of happening that's early stages of year 2 Batman. And then obviously there are outliers like Joker, which it doesn't exist in either Earth, but that's okay. It's all part of the multiverse. Matt Reeves can continue to build out his Gotham, and he's got great plans to how to build it out and build it out in a way that's sort of innovative. And, you know, they announced recently that there's an idea of taking that Gotham and exploring it at HBO Max as a show. Like those are things that you can do because we don't have to worry about how that would impact Aquaman 2 or how that could impact the Flash, you know. And so I think it just opens doors for us in ways that you couldn't have if you had to have a singular universe.
So let's get into some of the questions that we've got from fans. The first one is for you, Jim. It's from Van in the US. Now that Doomsday Clock has concluded, will we see any more of Alan Moore's comic characters cross over with the DC multiverse?
Probably less on the crossover side. You don't want to, dip into the well too often and kind of make it too regular a thing. It becomes too commonplace. You want to save it for really big epic storylines where you've got great creators like Jeff Johns who's able to come in and really deliver, a story worthy of that kind of concept. But we are, there's a spinoff. There's a Rorschach series that Tom King is writing. It's not like necessarily a crossover per se, but we are exploring more of the Watchmen universe. It's obviously got kind of a second life with the HBO TV series. And so it's been kind of fun exploring that. But yeah, that's all I can share at this point.
The next one is for Greg from Swarap Kumar Singh in India. The Crisis on Infinite Earths finale showed that the multiverse is gone and there exists only one universe and one Earth Prime. But since other shows like Titans, Doom Patrol, and the DC still goes on, is the multiverse actually gone or is it recreated?
It's not gone. That was to really help us, sort of like the original reason for Crisis when they were like, oh, we have too many worlds. Let's start combining things for the purpose of the books. I think for the purposes of the CW, those worlds are now one. But off network is like being off planet in a different part of the multiverse, but it's still alive and flourishing.
The multiverse. Every existence multiplied by possibility. And spread out before space and time in infinite measure. Civilizations rose and fell and rose again across reality's grasping expanse. Life, a precious gift, persevering in the face of every obstacle. Until, finally, the age of heroes was born.
Okay, well, the next question is for you from Sumik Day in India. Will we get more multiverse movies or even Elseworlds movies like Superman, Red Sun?
I think it's the possibility is there. It's not, it really comes down to, like I said, our focus is great stories. And so if we come across the right filmmaker with an interesting story that doesn't work within our existing timeline, and it would work as an Elseworld, we would definitely explore it. I can say we're not currently developing Red Sun, so that isn't one of them, but it really comes down to when the right filmmaker or the right idea comes together. That's the beauty of the multiverse, is we can explore it. We can go down the road and take a shot at it. But what we don't want to do is be in a place like Jim was saying, like it should be special. I don't think you want an Elseworld movie every year, like clockwork. Like it'd be much better for it to be a special thing. And we also want them to be great. We want them to be special. We want to make sure that it doesn't just sort of feel like we're just cranking out a volume of different versions of these characters. There has to be a reason for it. And I think it has to be a reason that we're excited about, that we think the fans will be excited about. So yes, the answer is yes, there will be opportunities. That one is not one that we're currently exploring.
We've got one more question for all of you guys. This is from Ryan Keller in the US. With the existence of the DC multiverse, how do you approach managing a wide variety of characters, stories, and universes for DC? And how would you work to help keep the audience connected with such a large variety of characters and stories? I imagine that you guys all have like a board somewhere in your house. It's like you open the doors and it's like, here's the characters in the whole world connected with yarn. I don't think that any of you have that. If you do, please show us right now.
It's like one of those True Detective scenes or something where it's just like newspaper
yarn, just yarns and pins. Yeah.
No, I think that is the challenge. There's so many characters, so many versions, but we have people through film, TV, within Berlanti's company. These are the assets we track and try to make sure that there aren't inconsistencies and that we are constantly communicating between ourselves so that we deliver something that's satisfying and maybe paints a bigger picture. And now that this has been established, this multiverse across all of the content, I think there's going to be a greater need for coordination to kind of deliver even cooler surprises going forward. But I just want to really thank and applaud Greg for really laying the groundwork for all this, because they didn't have to do this. From what I hear from Mark Guggenheim, it's a crazy amount of work, and bringing all these people together to deliver something that could potentially be very confusing or complicated, and being able to tell a story that's kind of derived from the canon, it is an amazing thing. And the fact that they've been able to do it year in, year out with different kind of crossovers and big events has been a real blessing, I think, for the DC universe, and has kind of shown that it can be done. But we just need to be on top of the storylines and where the characters are and how they're being used. But that's part of the job, and a lot of fun, and there's a lot of fun involved as well, because we get to really explore really deeply into the DC catalog sometimes.
When we were first pitching the idea of certain characters, there was a sense of like, okay, well, and this was years ago, but like, oh, we might use this character in the movie space, so maybe we won't then use a character there. And I would say, well, I can watch an animated Batman, and I don't confuse animated Batman from the Batman in your movies to, something on a show. But it doesn't mean that we still don't have to warrant using that character. Certainly any kind of character with that kind of size and scope and that much meaning in the world like this. But, so we want to justify our use of any character. But at the same time, ultimately, I think it's in the, as we bring all of these characters into live action and to life, it's just so much more enriching and rewarding for everyone, to feel like, okay, the best idea wins, and the best version of the story is going to be what we're all really trying to serve.
I think in the past, there's been like, well, features might do something with that, so stay away from it. It could be years before that character ever showed up on the screen, if it even showed up on the screen, and it was clear to us, like, it doesn't make sense to hold that back from the fans. Let's explore that. And by the way, if they fall in love with the character on TV and we do something in the movies 3 years down the road, all the better. Like, it's just a greater awareness for the characters. And so for us, our board is much smaller because we have fewer things that we're working on. We have, within a movie, it's 120 pages and there's a handful of characters, whereas in TV, there's a bunch of other characters that pop up. So it's a little bit more straightforward for us. I think really Jim is the great sort of, he's the center of everything. So he has to know everything that we're doing in features, everything that's happening in TV, and everything funnels to him And I think that's great that we have this guy who sort of knows the world better than anybody, who can sort of look at it and kind of go and come up and say, wouldn't it be great if Ezra showed up when met Grant? And you don't get that without Jim sort of being sort of at the center of all this. And so I think it's just a great collaborative team, and it's really just the beginning of what we're doing here. I think with just the stuff that we're working on now, and the idea of the multiverse, and really HBO Max being this other venue for us to really start to meet in the middle. I think if there was that sense that TV was TV and film was film, Max sort of becomes this place where we it'll be our clubhouse. Well, everything will gather into that space, and we'll be able to explore different opportunities and cross back over. And I'm excited about the potential of all the things that we can do with DC in the multiverse.
Awesome. Well, I want to say a huge thank you to the three of you guys for taking the time to chat with me and all of the fans here in the DC FanDome. This is we're talking about different platforms for things, and this is a whole new platform for fans to get to experience the DC multiverse as well. So thank you guys so much. This has been awesome.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Thanks, Tiffany. Thank you, Tiffany. That was amazing. Thank you so much.
The future certainly looks bright for the DC multiverse. I'm still not sure what I will look like on Earth 26, but I can't wait to meet me there. Now, if you're a big DC fan like me, then I'm willing to bet that you cannot wait for the Flash feature film to electrify the big screen. The good news is that you don't have to wait that long, because we are going right now with the filmmakers and the Flash himself, Ezra Miller.
Fans around the world. It's me, Ezra Miller.
Can you just move out your hair on the left side a little bit?
You don't like this? I'm Andy Muschietti, director of the Flash movie.
I'm Christina Hodson, the screenwriter of The Flash. I haven't spoken to humans in a while, so I'm going to be rusty.
I'm Barbara Muschietti, the producer of The Flash movie.
I play Barry Allen, a.k.a. The Flash, in the upcoming Flash movie. And I love you, and I'm excited to be here digitally with you. Flash fact, if you go to the bottom of Andy Muschietti's Wikipedia or IMDb page, you'll see that he actually has a PA credit on the 1996 Madonna movie Evita. Must ask you more about that, Andy.
Telling the story of one of the greatest superheroes of the DC world is a challenge. The most important thing is that it gets to your heart. Growing up with Batman and Superman and Flash, it was an opportunity to reconnect with childhood experiences reading DC Comics.
Flash fact, DC Comics actually stands for Detective Comics. Comics.
The tone for the film, I think, is very much Andy's signature.
He can jump from funny to scary to emotional really fast.
And it's also a time travel story, which I find very exciting.
Andy managed to put these tiny little DC Easter eggs into the It movie.
I like your glasses, Mr. Keene. You look just like Clark Kent.
I don't know about that.
One, he was vying for the job way earlier than any of us knew. Or two, while making the Flash movie, he discovered time travel for real, went back in time, and went to put all these things in just to mess with us. Either way, well played, sir.
You meet Andy, and you immediately can understand why he's the perfect choice for this movie. It's his compassion, his priority in this film of finding the heart of the story.
I'm also excited to see Andy's version of the Speed Force. He happened to have done some doodles that I may or may not have taken and kept. They are literally unlike anything you've ever seen before.
Flash fact, did you know that according to actual comic book canon, Superman is both a vegetarian and a Metallica fan? Which is, of course, impossible. But then again, he's Superman.
Batman lost his parents. Superman lost his planet. Harley Quinn lost her egg sandwich. But Barry, because he's got this ability to go back and manipulate time, he's the only one who can actually go and change his own personal story.
His mother was murdered, his father was framed and incarcerated, and all his journey from then was of a man trying to make things right.
And it sounds like a cliche, but script is everything. When I got to read Christina's first draft, I was just blown away.
The script has really captured his loquacity, his personality.
So you're fast. That feels like an oversimplification.
I fell in love with The Flash when I read Flashpoint. The combination of giant spectacle, action, and fun with this incredibly personal, intimate story of a boy just trying to save his mum.
He's someone who has the power of changing the events of the past, but by doing so can deteriorate the very fabric of the space-time continuum.
The juxtaposition between his vulnerability and his immense power is really what's exciting about superheroes to me. Flash fact: the hippopotamus is faster than the human being. Beware.
Every actor, every director, every writer brings something different to the character.
Barry as a character, and especially the way Ezra plays him, he's a guy with so much heart, so much humor. Spending time with Ezra is kind of like spending time with Barry Allen.
Really, I can feel his passion and his enthusiasm and his creativity.
He was born to play this role.
Flash fact: the first appearance of the multiverse in DC Comics is actually a Flash comic. Flash Comics number 123, The Flash of Two Worlds.
Time travel isn't simple. It's not always a straightforward case of go back and change one thing and another thing changes in the future.
This film is immensely important because if you look around at the DC universe, obviously we have all of these characters that exist within their own bubbles. We even have now multiple iterations of the same story.
I'm Batman. And Batman. I'm Batman. Sound like a cool guy.
This movie, by opening that door that Flashpoint did in the comics, all of these stories and characters can start to collide. Hello?
This should be impossible now.
It should be impossible now?
You don't know about the...
Oh my God, don't do this to me. I don't know about the what.
The cinematic multiverse is going to be born out of this movie. It's born out of Barry's story.
It blows our minds, the levels of possibility that exist within the context of this character and this story.
I can't wait for all of us to be able to sit down in a theater and enjoy these movies in the dark with a lot of people and with great snacks.
So obviously I don't want to spoil too much of the movie. I want you to be surprised when you see it. There's something that I can show you, a little sneak peek.
Oh my gosh. Oh, nope, sorry. That's my fault. It was an accident. It's not my personal playlist, but that might have been my fault. Back to you, Andy.
So I'd like to share a couple of concept art drawings, and it's Barry Allen's new suit. As you can see, it's more organic. You can see light embedded in it. It has been built by his friend Bruce Wayne this time.
Flash fact: the first ever Batman movie is actually an unlicensed Batman Dracula movie made by Andy Warhol with a soundtrack by the Velvet Underground. It's unreleased, but there's 39 minutes that have been recovered, and I highly recommend watching them. They're extremely strange.
There are so many potential crossovers in the multiverse, so many cool things that you could do.
I would really love them to do a two-hander with Wonder Woman. I think they would solve a lot of problems, let me tell you.
I'd like to see Game of Thrones crossover. Instead of all the months that it takes traveling from Winterfell to King's Landing, it would happen in 2 seconds. Barry Allen in the Iron Throne.
I actually already have a weird behind-the-scenes DC multiverse crossover. My best friend growing up is Rob Pattinson's older sister. So I have actually known the new Batman since he was 2 years old and in diapers.
I would like the Flash to meet in the multiverse Nicolas Cage. Not the Nicolas Cage Superman that never was. I want the Flash to meet Nicolas Cage, the person in this world who I believe probably does have the ability to transcend space-time. It's a real proposition.
I also can't wait to hear more about The Flash. Thank you, Andy, Barbara, Christina, and Ezra. Fun fact, we all know there are several Flashes: Wally West, Jay Garrick, Bart Allen, and Barry Allen. Did you know when Barry isn't working to save the world as the Flash, he's working to save Central City as a police scientist? Okay, that's all for me right now. I'm going to turn this over to Jaden Rodriguez, and I'll see you back here soon.
G'day DC FanDome, I'm Jaden Rodriguez from Australia, and I'm so excited to be here with you all. I just gotta say that being a total superhero freak that I am, I'm totally loving being part of this epic DC event. And you can't talk about superheroes without talking about the man himself, Batman. I mean, dude, can you imagine how awesome it would be to be Batman? In fact, if there's anything better than watching Batman, it's watching two Batmans, or Batmins. It doesn't matter. Let's have a look at this mashup of two fan favorite Dark Knights who happen to reside in the opposite ends of the Bat spectrum.
Terry, this is top priority.
Go ahead, Bruce.
A Wayne Powers deep space probe is receiving an anomalous communication. I'm patching it into you now.
Unfortunately. Is that you?
Clearly that's not me, Terry, but apparently it's what passes for me on this Earth.
Whoa! Who's the dweeb?
That would be Robin's counterpart.
The Joker! No way! That's the Joker?
That's not the Joker, it's a Joker.
I don't know, Bruce. Your friend with the Liberty Bell hair said the Joker.
No matter which universe he's from, he's a vicious and deadly psychotic.
He's throwing fish at you right now.
One thing's for sure. This Joker could up his thug recruitment game.
Yeah, pick up a fish and start tossing already, slacker. Wait, is he stealing a fish? Oh, this has got to be the dumbest heist.
The fish snapping of the century! Careful, you don't...
Hey, swell costume, by the way, Bruce.
Terry.
Must have taken forever to get the iron-on bat symbol just right.
Terry!
To the Batmobile!
Oh, this ought to be good.
Actually...
that ride's pretty schway, Bruce.
Don't let them catch you from behind.
What an odd thing to say. Hey, Bruce, I just noticed something about your collar.
Again, not my collar. But what is it?
Are the eyebrows painted on?
Don't be. Oh, wait. They are.
You know, my great aunt does the same thing with her eyebrows. Totally works for Aunt Phyllis.
What the?
Now what's going on? Where's this?
I'm not sure. But whatever it is, it must be built on a hill.
Joker could really stand to run a comb through that wig, huh? Oh, easy, Boy Wonder. Let's not forget we're wearing elf shoes and support hose.
And who is he even shushing at this point?
What's with the 57 random telescopes lying around for no reason?
Something's fishy here, Batman. Beautiful!
The Gotham High girls volleyball team's gonna be ticked when they find out their net was stolen.
Actually, I'm not sure which is more disconcerting. His trap, or the fact that these two can't seem to find their way out of it.
How about a fish fry?
Ooh, fish fry guy here is angling for a promotion. Settle down there, fish fry.
Wait a minute.
What is it?
Look at the Joker. Is it my imagination, or does he...
have a mustache?
Now that is just not right.
Wow, worst hot tub party ever. But on the bright side, Robin is already wearing his bathing suit.
I couldn't possibly deprive that poor hungry clam of its dinner.
Hold up! That's a clam?
Very touching. Oh, boy, wonder what a succulent hors d'oeuvre you should make.
It really is quite unsettling.
Well, a giant man-eating clam is... Wait, you're talking about the mustache again, aren't you?
It's mesmerizing.
Pay!
I would have gotten out of this in 2 seconds.
Aunt Phyllis could have gotten out of this in 2 seconds. By the way, Bruce, what do you feed paper mache?
I would have hit its face.
Oh, be nice, Venus. Robin's sitting right next to you. You get it? 'Cause she was talking about... Never mind.
Mollusk? Some mollusk! Push yourself away, Robin.
Is it weird that part of me is rooting for the clam?
Him against the side! Robin!
Help me, your feet.
I was actually feeling bad for Robin, but then I saw those elf booties again, and well... Hey, what happened?
That's the end of the transmission.
What do we do?
Not sure, but I know what we won't do.
What's that?
We never tell anyone what we saw here today.
Seriously? Not even the mustache?
Never.
I can tell you're serious. Know how? Your eyebrows, very expressive on their own. Why you ever chose to paint?
Don't you start.
I love it. Batman has such a great sense of humor. Okay, devoted fans teamed up to show out in force at the DC FanDome. Let's take a look at some of the best group cosplays, and coming up is a showdown like you've never seen before. Stay tuned for lots of fun and games with the Suicide Squad.
Come on then, let's go.
I like watching the stars. Orion and the plough. Polaris. And the big triangular thing.
I win!
Even though we are in the Hall of Heroes, I know that if I was ever in trouble, I would call upon this next group to help me out. As you know, director James Gunn announced in February that filming had wrapped for the Suicide Squad. And right now, he's taken a break from the edit bay to be here with us to discuss his vision for the film, answer fan questions, and have some insanely crazy fun with the cast. And, of course, share some never-before-seen content with us. Check it out.
This is amazing. I'm so excited to be here at DC FanDome with all the amazing DC fans. As many of you know, the Suicide Squad is by far the most fun I've ever had making a movie. I am still working hard on it every day from morning till night, but we're having a great time creating something incredibly special for people. And I'd like to take this break now to take some questions from you guys.
Hey, James. When was the first time you ever read Suicide Squad as a comic book? And who was your favorite character?
I read John Ostrander's original run of Suicide Squad. So I remember reading the very first issue of that run and falling in love with the concept, with the characters. I loved the movie The Dirty Dozen that came out back in the 60s. And this was like a super villain version of The Dirty Dozen. And I loved the character of Amanda Waller, who was so different for the time, in terms of being such a strong woman, but not kind of an anti-hero, but kind of bad, kind of good, not physically the same as everybody else you saw in comic books. And I just thought she was so cool. And of course, I loved all the characters and Boomer and everybody. And I just had a great time reading that initial run.
My name is Maisha Kondakar, and I'm a loyal DC fan, and I'm making this video from Dhaka, Bangladesh. I have a question for James Gunn. Which DC character were you most excited to write about for the Suicide Squad movie, and why?
Meisha, I think the character that I was the most excited to write for was Harley Quinn. I've loved this character ever since Paul Dini first put her in animated shows. I think that there's a sort of chaotic trickster god nature to her where she's just always going off in random directions. And as a writer, that's a really fun thing to deal with because she takes you in places where you don't know you're going to go. So a lot of it was me writing for Harley, and a lot of it was Harley doing some of the writing for me during the Suicide Squad.
Hey, I'm Jake from State Farm, and setting aside the massive amounts of damage that you must have had the squad rack up in that one scene, can you confirm the number of crashes and explosions? Asking for a friend.
Hey, Jake, I cannot confirm the exact amount of explosions and crashes, but I will say that we have about as many explosions and crashes in this film as in any film ever. In fact, the guy who did all of our special effects on this film, Dan Sudik, who has done almost all of the Marvel movies, great movies, says there are more effects in this film than all of those movies he's done combined. So we have quite a huge special effect explosion extravaganza for you guys.
You've said Ostrander's run was influential, but what else inspired you to feature these under-the-radar characters?
That is an amazing question. I'm excited to answer because I actually had a long talk with John Ostrander, about this because he came and he visited the set. And I said, I don't think of this movie so much as an adaptation of your comics. I think of this movie as a sequel to your comics, to your run in the comic books. What would John Ostrander be doing with these characters, if it was 30 years after he first started? And so I think that it has the spirit and the lifeblood of the Ostrander books, but I also like to continuously take in new supervillains, other supervillains who have sometimes been in the Suicide Squad comics over the years, but also a lot of, characters like Polka Dot Man and Ratcatcher who have never been in the Suicide Squad, but who I just think are great DC villains who have something to offer and that we could have put into the movies. So that is where my biggest inspiration comes from.
Who were your favorite villains as a kid? And did working on this movie teach you anything new about these quote-unquote villains?
Wow, who were my favorite villains growing up? Well, I was a huge Batman fan, and I'm going to tell you who my favorite villain was, and maybe it's a little embarrassing, but I'm not embarrassed by it. It was Batmite. I loved Batmite. I thought he was hilarious and creepy as heck. So Batmite was definitely my favorite supervillain. And don't think I didn't think about putting the Batmite in the Suicide Squad, because I did.
I saw the set photos of the Suicide Squad and I absolutely love the direction of the movie. But is it true that Flora Borg is playing Javelin Man? And if so, why? Also, is Nathan Fillion playing Blackguard?
Hey, Milan. So, is Flula playing Javelin Man? Well, his name isn't exactly Javelin Man, but in mere moments, we are going to see who Flula and Nathan are playing in the film. And I'll give you a hint. One of them you got pretty correct, and the other one you didn't get correct. And there's a lot of people all over the internet who have theories about who people are playing, and sometimes they've been right, and sometimes they've been wrong. And so I guess we're going to answer all those questions in a minute. But I will tell you one thing, which is Flula Borg is the funniest guy in the entire world and incredibly strange. But he's become a good friend through all this, and he's a great guy. And Nathan, of course, has been in all my movies. He's already been a friend. Here it comes, the time that so many of you guys have been waiting for. Who is who in the squad? You've heard a lot of the actors that are in this movie. You don't know who they're playing. Maybe you have some good guesses. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're wrong. We'll have to see. But here it is. Everything.
You know the deal. Successfully complete the mission, you get 10 years off your sentence.
You're my dream, you're my nightmare. Life is a breeze, you don't fight fair.
Welcome, Task Force X. These are your brothers and sisters for the next few days.
Run away from the pain, I don't care. 'Cause I think I need some guiding. All the kids don't stand a chance. Old man, something back again. I'm back to the black again. My plans like, oh no, oh no. Old man, trouble back again. Thought I had the upper hand, oh no, oh no. I'm back to the black again. Getting to my plans like, oh no, oh no. First day in sight, the violence. Turn around, then day in fight, the silence. Turn it down. I think I need some guidance. No, the kids don't stand a chance. Old man, trouble back again. Thought I had the upper hand. Oh no, oh no. I'm back to the back again. Getting on my plans like, oh no, oh no. Old man, trouble back again. Thought I had the upper hand. Oh no, oh no. I'm back to the back again. Oh no.
Here we go. We are introducing the cast and the characters they're playing of the Suicide Squad. First of all, we have Idris Elba as Bloodsport. John Cena as Peacemaker. David Dastmalchian as Polka Dot Man. Jai Courtney as Captain Boomerang. Nathan Fillion as TDK. Lula Borg as Javelin. This is like a really messed up Brady Bunch. Daniela Melchior is Ratcatcher 2. Pete Davidson is Blackguard. Mei-Ling Ing as Mangao. Michael Rooker, unfortunately, is Savant. I had to put him in the movie. I deal with the devil. Peter Capaldi as the Thinker. Sean Gunn is Weasel. Steve Agee is John Economos and our on-set King Shark.
Yes.
Alicia Braga as Sol Soria. Juan Diego Bocco is General Presidente Silvio Luna. Real great guy. Joel Kinnaman is, of course, Rick Flag. Viola Davis is Amanda Waller. And, of course, Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn.
Hey,
All here together again.
Good.
Good. Are you excited to be a part of DC FanDome?
Yes.
Win!
Hey, we're gonna win.
Super excited. This is going to be great.
Well, we're going to have some fun here. We're going to have some competition, which it's not fun unless there's somebody winning and somebody losing. And so I would like to have a couple of team leaders, and I think it only makes sense that we have the people in charge of the Suicide Squad, Viola Davis and Joel Kinnaman, as our team leaders.
Hey, team leaders.
And why don't you guys go ahead and let's pick teams.
Bloodsport.
Thanks. Thanks.
Definitely.
All right. I'll take my girl, Harley Quinn.
All right.
Yay.
I will take Savant.
Oh, good for you.
Wow.
What a bad mistake.
That is a bad pick. That is. And you guys have scenes together too. I can't believe you made that mistake.
I gotta tell you, you just made a big mistake.
John Cena. I'll take John Cena.
I want to reassure you that is a horrible decision. You
No,
will
I
definitely-
already know.
I'm going to take my boy, King Shark.
Okay, I will take my man Boomer, Jai Courtney.
All right.
Ratcatcher.
Ratcatcher 2.
2.
2. I will take Flula Borg, the Javelin.
Yes. I guarantee we will lose. Yes.
I'm going to take Polka Dot Man.
Thank you.
Yes.
And now.
I'm gonna have to grab the weasel.
Oh, good man.
That's not on Rooker's team. Yes.
The weasel kid.
Is that everybody?
I'm out of names.
What about this makes me feel really bad.
Who's left?
There's only
So
one
sad.
left.
It feels like high school again.
Did someone?
It totally feels like high school.
This is what it was
Yeah,
like,
the
the
thinker,
basketball
Violet.
team.
Yeah, the thinker.
Great idea.
Violet picks the thinker.
Nathan
You guys are losing already.
DK.
Sorcery.
El Presidente.
Okay.
What about Mongo?
We got picked by Joel.
Yeah, thank you, Joe.
I'll just watch. Pete, this is sad. Victory cigarette.
Oh man. Yeah. Okay. I was a good pick. Black Dart. Okay.
That went well. I think that went really well.
And then let's start off. We're going to go head to head, and we're going to start off with the team captains. Let's do Joel and Viola. I'm going to pick. This is a good question.
Okay.
I know both of you know so much about the lore of DC Comics. There's a multiple choice, so you don't have to look terrible. Out of all the squad members, who are the only characters to have had their own comic series? There's 2 of them, and I'm gonna list 4 options. A, Harley Quinn and King Shark. B, Harley Quinn and Amanda Waller. C, Harley Quinn and Peacemaker. Or D, Harley Quinn and Boomerang. Which 2 have had their own series?
Harley Quinn and Boomerang.
Harley Quinn and Peacemaker.
Boom! Yes! Yes! That's correct!
Yeah.
Wow!
Even look. Even I knew that. Okay.
Man, it'd be awesome if it was, though.
Polka Dot Man.
Polka Dot Man! Again?
Mr. Sean Gunn.
Weasel versus Polka Dot Man. Old friends.
Oh,
I want a softball.
Oh, yeah, cue up the special guest.
¿Qué tal, amigos? Hola. ¿Cómo están? How are you? I've got a question. What career military man probably wishes he'd never followed in his dad's footsteps?
Joaquin, the great Coachy Loco.
Rick Flag Jr.
I had Super Grover. Is Super Grover? It's not Super Grover.
You're wrong,
Rick
Sean.
Flag Jr.
You're wrong. Wrong canon.
Points for creativity.
Now, there's no multiple choice. You just got to answer right away, and you have to have it be the right choice.
Okay.
Who has more tattoos, Harley Quinn or Pete Davidson?
Harley Quinn? No.
Pete, Margot gets another point.
I was thinking about his character. Oh,
How we were shooting.
This is a language. This is a misunderstanding.
That's always your answer when something goes wrong. Who's next?
The Bond.
Fillion, TDK.
What is the government's official code name for the Suicide Squad?
I thought it was the Suicide Squad.
No.
No.
The only thing I know.
Mei Ling's dying over there.
There's
Extremely.
Task Force X.
Task Force X.
X.
I can't say that even if I knew the answer.
You said it.
Task Force X.
You say it in the movie. Some of these are too easy. Hey, can we go to like one of our secret guest questions?
Hey guys, which team member would you sacrifice first?
There's a correct answer.
Rooker. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Is that what you said, Steve?
That's what I said.
What's the answer, Jen?
I would have to go with Savant because he's played by Michael Rooker. And if anyone here has ever had to spend a day working with Michael Rooker, I think they'd have the same answer.
You know what? People are always like that. They always want to get rid of the most dangerous one first. Yeah, I understand where this is coming from.
All right, we're going to have Flula versus Elise. Oh, boy! Which character made his or her first full appearance in Superboy number 9 in 1994? A. Mongal. B. King Shark. C. Bloodsport. D. The Thinker.
May I ask a question, Mr. Gunn?
Oh, no. Yeah.
When you say full appearance, does this mean like everything was exposed? Is it
the character was not fully exposed? No, the character had some items of clothing on.
Got it. Then I would answer King Sharky.
I was going to say B.
B. King Shark. How did you guys know that?
No. Oh, I said King Sharky. That's incorrect. So
okay, so it goes to Elise.
Yeah, sorry. Jeopardy rules, guys. Pronounce it right.
Like not even crush it.
Wait, he doesn't get that?
You can't just give away the point.
You can Flula. You can't give away your point, dude.
Why not? I give away
problem?
snacks at lunch. Have my point.
Hey.
Is he even on your team?
Yeah, Flula's on my team.
What are we doing right now? What's happening?
He's not.
You keep complaining.
He's not on our team? Oh, never mind.
You're on Viola's team.
Wait, I'm not on Rooker's team?
No.
I thought you were on my team too.
Oh.
But no, you're not on my team.
Okay.
Wait. We have another special question. Why don't we do the last special question?
Hi, guys. So now I have a serious question for you guys. I'm going to test your smarts. Who shot Superman? Was it J.R. Ewing, Peacemaker, Bloodsport, Amanda Waller? Let me know.
That is Storm Reed.
My daughter.
Which of your characters is in prison for shooting Superman?
Bloodsport.
Bloodsport.
That's correct. Bloodsport is in prison for shooting Superman.
With a Krypton bolt.
Storm Reed turns in an amazing performance in the film, and some of the most memorable scenes. Like really, she's like amazing in the movie. Really, truly.
What movie is that?
Oh my God! Is there anybody left, Pete? Who's left?
Blackguard.
Against two.
Flula.
Oh, great!
Oh,
Okay.
Flula!
Who will lose first, Pete?
What comic book series did the Suicide Squad debut in? A. The Brave and the Bold. B. The Bold and the Beautiful. C. The Bravest of the Bold. Or D. Time to Die Hard.
Yeah.
The Brave and the Bold.
Pete, it's yours.
Pete, you did it!
Oh, wait.
Idris Elba, Bloodsport, versus Mei Ling, Mangal. Okay, question. Which character... Oh, this isn't fair. Oh, well. Question. Which character goes into the mission armed with the most weaponry?
Bloodsport.
Oh, isn't it polka dots?
Yeah.
Polka dots got all the dots that can do and bombs.
More of a condition.
Polka dot can do. He's got hundreds of weapons on him.
Well, it's just one weapon. It's polka dots. Bloodsport pulls off all the different kinds of weapons.
Sandals.
I didn't get the script.
The Mandel's weapon that he wears in the movie?
Oh, come on. Leave those
I was
Mandels
actually...
alone. Really?
I was editing a scene yesterday, Idris, where you're... And I noticed for the first time that you're going up the side of a wall in your Mandels.
Yeah.
Well, he always was. I guess he was always wearing his Mandels in that scene.
Always.
I just never noticed till yesterday.
Danielle loves those Mandels, don't you, Danielle?
Yeah, I love it.
Okay, who's next?
Yeah.
If given the chance, which superhero would your character like to take down?
It's not about taking anybody down. It's about trying to bring yourself up. You know, just spread some positive vibes.
Cena for president after that answer. I'm going to vote for John. That's it.
Which new addition to the squad was the biggest surprise to you?
I think Weasel was the biggest surprise. You're going to expect him to be this crazy animal. He can't even. I mean, come on.
Wait till you see Weasel in action in the movie.
How is the movie? How does it look?
It's amazing. It's amazing. Like really, truly, it's just the most fun I've ever had. I love the movie. The studio is overwhelmingly happy with the movie.
Wow.
It's the action is great. It's funny. And it's really dramatic in the right places and very touching. It's great. And all of you guys, I mean, just down the line, it's just the greatest cast I've ever worked with by far. Just every single person is amazing. It's just a once-in-a-lifetime thing for me. It was a blast to make, and it's just cutting together just completely fluidly. But honestly, I'm so grateful to all of you guys, except for Rooker. But I can cut around him pretty easily. So
he's looking at me every day on the cutting room floor. They don't even do that anymore, do they? It's all digital.
They made it digital for you, so we don't even have to look at you on the cutting room floor.
I just got to say, what an amazing experience it was. And it's because of you and all of these guys. You know, the atmosphere on that set was so positive. Awesome. And such a warm, wonderful, supportive place to be. You know, not everybody has been in a big superhero movie, even if they've been Doctor Who or anything like that. So to walk onto a set like that can be quite intimidating. But the welcome that you and everybody here provided was just fantastic. So thank you and everybody here for that.
Leave it to the British guy to come in right at the end and say something beautiful that makes us all look stupid.
That's what I'm here for. That's why I'm called the thinker.
So the showdown champion, I believe, even though we haven't been keeping very good score, is Viola Davis's team.
Yes. Damn it!
So you guys, right now, I have a little something special in store for you, which we have you guys right now. And everybody out there in the DC FanDome universe are going to be the first to see a little behind-the-scenes action from the Suicide Squad.
I think it's going to surprise people.
You kind of sit there and go, how did they do that?
It's going to be different from any superhero movie ever made.
There's no one better in the world to direct the Suicide Squad than James Gunn.
I was excited with an opportunity to be able to do the Suicide Squad in the way it could be done from my point of view.
This one is completely unique. This is a gritty 1970s war movie combined with the brilliance of James Gunn's characters and comedy.
You need your director to set the vibe.
The Suicide Squad is just a twisted fantasy of characters.
Within each of our characters, there's a certain beauty within most of them. Some of them are just pretty crappy through and through.
Be like a douchey Captain America.
The guy who believes in peace at any cost, no matter how many people he needs to kill along the way.
Okay, I got it.
Don't ever settle back like you think you know where this is going, because you don't.
As soon as you have some sense about what's about to happen next, James comes in.
Everyone's exploding. Genitals, heads, arms, legs.
It's like a big, massive graphic novel brought to life.
This is by far the biggest movie I've ever made.
I don't think that you know what to expect.
Don't get too attached.
This has been truly the greatest, most exciting journey of my life making this film. Cut. That was great. So that was it. What do you guys think of that? New clip we just saw. Anyway, I can't wait for everybody to see The Suicide Squad in theaters all the way in August 6th, 2021. We're still working on it, but man, I am so excited for everybody to see it. And I am grateful for everyone out there in the DC universe who came and checked out and hung out with us for a little while and saw this train wreck that would have gone perfectly smoothly if not for Michael Booker. So, thank you guys.
Way to go, Viola and your team, for the win. Ça va, DC Fandom? I'm Terry LTM, your French host, and I've got a big admiration for James Gunn and the cast. What a great teamwork. Now I'm even more excited for the Suicide Squad movie than before. How about you? Tweet us at #DC Fandom. And next, we have a very special DC fan guest with a question for Idris Elba. Gaël, mon fils, take it away.
Idris, you're a sport fan. What kind of training did you do for your role in the Suicide Squad?
Okay, so hi Gaël, Idris. So yes, I am a sports fan. I am a fan of all sports, but I played basketball, football, cricket, hockey as a kid, and then as an adult, I did kickboxing and a little bit of boxing. When I was training for this film, because there was a lot of work that we had to do, I basically didn't do a sport. I did a sort of general training package, which was more centered around my kickboxing training. So that's lots of circuits, lots of, cardio work, a little bit of weight training to get those big muscles up. And yeah, essentially working on that particular film, the work rate was so high, we were training every day on the job. So that's me.
Turns out Gaël isn't the only tennis player who is a massive DC fan. Now let's check in with two other mega fans who, like us, share a mutual love for Wonder Woman. Tennis star Venus Williams and director Patty Jenkins.
Venus Williams, I'm so psyched that I get to meet you. It's amazing. It's so funny because here I am making Wonder Woman, and I'm constantly inspired by the different Wonder Women in the world, and you're like a quintessential one.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to meet you too. Congratulations. You look amazing. I love your style, but more than anything, I love your work.
Thank you.
To talk to you about it because I've got questions.
I know, me too. So I love the fact, it's very funny because now has come this time that I'm getting to make the Wonder Woman film, but there are so many people like both of us who grew up looking at Wonder Woman, and I don't think that people understood the significance of who she was in the world. So I would love to hear, I'm so interested that you were a Wonder Woman fan too, and what's your history? How did you get into her?
Yeah, so for me, I grew up on Linda Carter, Wonder Woman, right?
Oh, yeah.
She was beautiful and she could do anything and she saved the world. And that, for me, was my first introduction to Wonder Woman. And it was so iconic. And then after that, actually, I was more introduced to Linda Carter as Wonder Woman and then on to DC Comics. So actually, Wonder Woman was my first introduction into comics at all. And it really just started there.
If you had to create a superhero, what would you add to the party?
I gotta say, I was just talking to Jim Lee and we created a superhero named, ironically enough, I can't believe no one thought of this, Venus.
That's amazing.
So this superhero, she is antimatter and, the monitor and the anti-monitor. So she's somewhere in between and lives in the space between matter and antimatter. We just started talking and creating this character. So I think that's it.
I love the sound of that. And I also love, it's funny that we've had so few, there are plenty of great female superheroes, but so few of them have risen to a huge amount of focus. And I like that adds this whole other thing to the party, like many other the male superheroes have branched out to all of these different dimensions. That's a great one to bring forward.
I think so. And I think in my head, to me, there's good and bad in her. So she's trying to always stay towards the good, but she has tendencies.
It's been interesting kind of modeling power and grace and beauty yourself. How has been taking on that role yourself in this world been?
I really just try to be my best.
Yeah.
Be who I am. And most of all, I want to be proud of who I am and what I do when I look back and not cringe and say, my God, did I do and say that? That's not the memory I want.
Yeah.
I want to look back and be proud of how I've handled all of my moments. And in doing that, it's motivating to others. And you never know what's going to be motivating to someone else. And there's so many things that have motivated me that other people have done. They never even knew that they touched my life. And so just by the simple act of being positive, allowing the wins and the losses and the tough spots to just roll off of you. You never know who's watching, who you inspire. And quite obviously, Wonder Woman does inspire lots of women in that sense.
Yeah. And you do too. And that's another thing is like, what I like is Wonder Woman always surprised me. She always surprises me by not having to be showy about her power and not having to be belittling or not having to be all these things that we sort of saw power meaning. You're kind of defying all of these things now as an entrepreneur, because we all knew of you as a great tennis player, but then you've turned around and like started this amazing clothing line.
Yeah, there really is no limit. And with my activewear brand 11 by Venus, that is honestly the value of it, is that you're going past the 10. You don't set a limit.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, that's what it's about. Being well, being positive, all those things help you to get past your limits. So you do have to take care of yourself so you can get there. And we always say better, not best. So best is a moment. I won Wimbledon at some point, but then maybe I didn't win the next year and someone else was the best at that moment. But if you're always going for better, then you're constantly transcending that moment best.
That's really cool. I love 11. I got a chance to sneak peek your Wonder Woman inspired line, which is so awesome. And here's what I like about it so much. And it's funny because it doesn't surprise me that it came from you at all. When I first came to the Wonder Woman brand, people either wanted to go too hard or too soft. It was like, is she masculine or is she feminine? And it was an interesting thing that it was when a bunch of women showed up that we were kind of like, no, it can be both. So I love that you as a designer are, of course, like speaking my language of like, oh, that's got such edge and awesomeness to us, but to everybody. But it's not leaning, it's not about being a woman or a man.
I agree with you. Women are powerful and men are powerful too. So you don't have to try to be either or.
Yeah.
We all have an innate power in ourselves.
So how did you approach the line?
I really wanted to do something that really represented Wonder Woman, but in a less traditional sense.
Yeah.
So it's away from the red, white, and blues, but focused on the stars. And especially with, of course, Linda Carter, I'm inspired by that. And I have to say, every time I design an outfit for the Olympics, it's designed after Wonder Woman. So I have like this inspiration behind it. And every 4 years, this outfit that I wear is inspired by Wonder Woman. But this time I wanted to stick with the symbolism of her and not necessarily that color palette. So that's how we came up with this sparkling star, black and white. Anyone can wear a black and white, and there's gold in it as well. And then these elements of surprise and wonder. And so we have these crystals with the amazing Wonder Woman crest.
That's so cool. That's awesome.
I think we talked about this already, but your first memory of Wonder Woman and kind of, well, you can talk about that, but also like connect that memory of Wonder Woman to where you are now. Film.
Yeah.
What's that feel like? And does it feel full circle? Because to me, it feels like something you were meant to do.
Here's what's interesting about it. So my first memory of Wonder Woman is my mom never let us watch TV, and or alternately, we didn't have a TV. So I saw it at a friend's house. And I just remember just like the catnip zeroing in on it. And immediately the thing that it turned into was the role play on the schoolyard. I was in elementary school and everybody would play who they were. And I remember it became imperative to get out onto the yard first so that you could declare you were Wonder Woman. So all these years later, when it became something I got to do, there were lots of Wonder Woman fans, but it was very important to me that whoever did the movie was a fan. And I was. So I found myself in this situation where it's both totally surreal that you get to be the one to do it after having a childhood connection. On the other hand, I was like, well, I don't know who else is a fan here trying to direct this movie, but I know that I am. So I'm happy that it's somebody who can be a guardian of that legacy, you know. And that was the first thing I did, was call Linda Carter. And I called Linda and I said, you're going to read in the trades that we're doing a new Wonder Woman. And I want you to know, we're not here to reinvent Wonder Woman or redesign Wonder Woman. I simply want to take the torch of something you gave to me and pass it forward to the kids of the next generation and people of the next generation. And so I want to continue that. She's been a dear friend ever since, but it was about kind of honoring that legacy.
Okay, so why do you think that it's important to not only have real but fictional role models that are like Wonder Woman?
My mother is a feminist and like really shielded me in a way from a belief that I would hit limits. And so I feel like between the Wonder Womans of the world and the way that I grew up, nobody was ever telling me I couldn't. And I was so I was able to look at other women in the world doing incredible things and, you know, athletes and actresses and, you know, scientists and all of these things and think like, oh, okay, cool. I wasn't focusing on that it wasn't possible. I always thought it was perfectly possible. It took many years for me to see how far behind we still were in so many ways. And that's too bad. But I think that's always been my goal, is to be a part of, like, let's not fight and let's not justify and do all those things. Let's just assume, of course, it's possible that all of these people can do so many things. So it is the seeing it and seeing people like you out in the world doing incredible things that, of course, makes it seem attainable to other people.
I love that. I feel like we grew up in the same home.
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to say can't. You were in major trouble if you said that. We weren't really allowed to watch TV unless it was educational programs. So I think we have a lot of stories. A lot of stories we could share.
I know.
In the multiverse, you lived like right there too, but just another planet.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think that your parents, or of course I faced a lot of blocks, but it wasn't like I wasn't thinking there was going to be sexism that held me back at all. I was absolutely just propelling forward. And so I think that's where, like, having an idealized world and being raised in a place where you believe that sort of thing is possible makes a big difference of, like, you can do things. And so, yeah, modeling it for kids and people is amazingly important.
Extremely important. What do you think sets Wonder Woman apart from other superheroes?
I think it's her moral hopes for mankind. I can't think of any other superhero who, I think a lot of them who have great morality, of course, and lots of complex things, but someone whose mission even is to make mankind better. She's not perfect or above it either. So her own struggles to figure out how to use her power and be helpful is so interesting to me. I loved graphic novels right from the start because I loved Little Nemo and Slumberland, and I would look at all of these graphic novels, and then I loved superheroes. So I transitioned pretty easily over to sometimes comic books, sometimes more highbrow, you know, comic book art books and things, and it came quite naturally.
Quite naturally. Yeah. I think you touched on something earlier, too, where you talked about you didn't know what blocks you would face.
Yeah.
And I think that happens with Wonder Woman, too, that she doesn't know what she's going to face. How were you able to deal with some of the things that you faced on your road to where you are now? And what advice would you give for women who want to follow in your footsteps? And I hate saying women, because if you're a director, you should be the best director. If I'm a tennis player, I should be one of the best tennis players to ever play. Why should I have to be singled out for these other things? So regardless, sometimes this is how the world looks at us. And we know that women do face more challenges to get to the top. So what is your advice, and how did you feel when you faced those roadblocks? How did you get through them?
It was after I was successful, actually. After I had made Monster that I started to see, I'm a woman director. Oh, I wasn't thinking about that. And all of a sudden I started to see limitations or hopes or wants or expectations on me because of that. And that was when it really surprised me. It's because I thought, I wasn't thinking about being a woman. I'm just a director. And yes, I make movies starring women, but we're not women films. We're just making films. Almost Wonder Woman-like. I've always tried to say, that's their problem. Like, this is their problem. I'd love to help you with it by surprising you with what I can do. But I have to focus on what I'm doing over here and do the best job I can while you get over your expectation of what people can do. I can't be bothered. And I want to always be a part of the voice of change in as big of a way as I can. But also not let that get in your head. So I try to just aim to be end-minded,
Last questions from my end is, let's talk about the Amazons and Wonder Woman and how amazing that they look in their outfits and how boss they are. I love all of that. Can we talk about stone women, costumes, and all of that?
There are many set patterns for doing warfare and competition, but they all are very specifically masculine, which you don't really think about until you start trying to design it. And the fighting is, like I said, headbutting and so getting into what they would do, what competition would be, how it would work, and what kind of clothing they would wear. It's not unlike you and how you dress and the things that you design, where it's like they don't need to be sexed up in an inconvenient way, but they also wouldn't not care about what they look like. They'd also care and have ownership in what they're thinking that what they're putting on is both functional and cool. It's a fun thing to try to represent an entire world in this incredible tribe of Amazons. It reminds me of the kind of sports I've watched you do. So that makes me so happy.
Stay in touch. I love this whole conversation.
I do.
We're in the same home.
I know. And I mean it when I say it's so funny, because I really do sit around and talk about what Amazons are and what Wonder Woman is. And you literally are out there in this world walking around, demonstrating it all the time. And that's what's so cool is being the director of it. Sometimes people will say, I've never seen a movie like that before. And I'm like, yeah, but you see the women, you've seen the women, you've seen people like you. So it's interesting that it's such an unusual thing. So nice to meet you. What a pleasure. What a pleasure. Great to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Bye. Bye.
Wow, I had no idea Venus was such a huge DC fan like us. Not only do we here in the DC fandom want to know what you out there in the fanverse think, but we also want to know what you can do. We asked and you didn't disappoint. You sent in the best of your best cosplay and fan art, and here just a sample of the amazing talents out there in the DC fandom. Is a boss. It is someone who's confident, reaches their goals, and uses their inner strength as a superpower to get through life. You do not want to miss this next conversation as we gathered some of the most electrifying females from Megan Good to Candy Spaden, the new Batwoman, Javisha Leslie, and more for a conversation we called Boss, Female of Color within the DC Universe, moderated by celebrity DJ D Nice and Grammy Award-winning singer Estelle.
What's a boss? 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 It's me.
That's me.
That's me. That's me.
What's happening, folks? How you feeling? Welcome to the DC Fandom. My name's Estelle, and
my name is D Nice, and welcome to Boss, Females of Color Within the DC Universe panel.
Right, we're going to start off by introducing some of the panelists today. Megan Good, who plays Darla Shazam on Shazam the film.
And I'm a big fan of this show. Candace Patton, who plays Iris West Allen on The Flash.
We got Nafisa Williams, who plays Anissa, Thunderbird, Blackbird on Black Lightning.
Yes, and we have Chantel Twee. She plays Grace Joy on Black Lightning.
We got Javicia Leslie, who plays Ryan Wilder, a.k.a. Batwoman, on Batwoman.
Hey.
We also have Anna Jope, who plays Coriander on Titans.
Hey, we got Damaris Lewis. My little sis, I love it. Plays Blackfire on Titans.
And we have Tala Ash, who plays Zari Tarazi on DC's Legend of Tomorrow.
Awesome. So we want to start this off with taking a minute to congratulate the newest boss of the entire group, Javicia Leslie, the first Black actress to play Batwoman. And look, this is huge news, given that only a few iconic Black actresses, Eartha Kitt, Halle Berry, and recently announced Zoe Kravitz, I know to hang around the Batcave, but they're Catwomen. Javicia said she want to be Batwoman. So, that's a huge thing. So we want to congratulate you and big you up for even doing that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So awesome.
Well, who was kind of like your blueprint? Who's a person that you said, oh, this is why I want to do this?
I've always truly admired Eartha Kitt. But I admire Eartha Kitt even outside of acting. I love her for her activism and the fact that she used her art for activism. And just her mentality in general, the things that she would say and how dynamic they were. And then just as a woman and the power that she had as a woman.
That's incredible. Do you got a question?
Yes. So I have a question for Anna. How's playing the role of Starfire changed your life?
It's a big question. I think as many people know, when I was cast, there was a lot of backlash because some people were upset that it was a Black woman that they cast. And I had to lean into my friends and my family and my faith, I guess, in a way that I haven't ever really had to do before. And also, it's been incredible to see what that meant for a lot of people. A lot of marginalized people reach out to me, be it Black or gay or trans or whatever. And it's incredible to be, even if, some small inspiration for them. So I guess in those ways.
It's definitely important during this time as well.
I'll throw one up to anybody who wants to answer. Like, when you're a BIPOC, seeing someone who looks like you play a character you've grown up loving is super powerful. I know that playing Garnet. Now, how does it make you feel knowing that you may be someone's first introduction to the world of superheroes? Like, what is the thing? How does it feel when the kids react to you or the people say,
I remember really early, we started our show in 2014, and I remember shortly after we aired, I remember getting a tweet from a mom, and she was saying that her and her daughter were watching The Flash, and her daughter was watching my character, and she was like, Mommy, Iris West is so beautiful. She looks just like me. Does that mean that I'm beautiful too? And she tweeted that to me, and I get teary-eyed to this day thinking about it. And I remember tweeting her back and saying, yes, tell your daughter we are beautiful. Like, remind her we are beautiful.
My daughter's 8 years old, and when I told her that, I was doing this with you guys, she was like, are you serious? Can I come in? Can I sit with you?
Okay, so for Damaris, all right, so you've been in this industry as a whole for a while, right? Whether it's you being a model, you've danced for Prince, like you've been a dancer, you've done some things in your life, and I've been part witness to a lot of it, and now you're a superhero. I remember seeing you on the screen and thinking to myself, she better work. That's literally my first thoughts on seeing you in your role. As you move forward in your career, what exactly was the point of pivot? What was the point where you said, I'm going to do this? Go.
First of all, full circle moment, just the fact that you and Dee have been part of my journey. I think are always showing up. The pivot for me was when I started getting booked for being different. And that's when I realized that being different was my superpower. I have spent my entire life, I had the luxury of working with Prince and having him being my mentor. And this is a person who prided himself on being different. But until it happens to you, you don't really believe it. And so, modeling is one beast. Dance is another beast. Acting is another beast. And I've always been that kid in the corner. I've always been that person that thought a little bit differently. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of examples of what happens when you think differently.
I will tell you, you were a superhero when I first met you. I met you because of Estelle at one of Prince's shows.
Wow.
Yeah. The way you were walking across the stage, it was like, well, who is this? Like, it was just so confident to walk across the stage like that with Prince. And to see the type of success you're having right now, we all knew it was going to happen, and we're all proud of you.
I love y'all. Thank you.
It's awesome. So, Chantel, I have a question for you. So, who were your role models, whether females or just anyone in the industry? Like, who inspired you?
I think growing up, I had Maggie Chung, who did a lot of Wong Kar-wai films, as someone I admired a lot, and Sandra Oh, who broke a lot of barriers with the work she's done. But I also love doing theater. So a lot of actresses who've done theater and film and television is something I admire a lot, like Tessa Thompson or Felicia Rashad and Kate Blanchett. So I love actresses who use their craft not just as a way of exposure, but really to like as a craft, digging deep and using it in a way that can change lives in their own lives. Like my grandmother, who left Vietnam during the war with her 10 kids on a boat. Wow. I mean, that for me, the personal heroes in my life, I think probably have marked me the most.
Wow, that's awesome.
How do you liberate yourselves and or subsequently your characters from the hypersexualized, exotic stereotypes that can be attached to Black and multicultural women? And what advice can you offer young girls about how to reclaim their sexuality, power, and confidence?
For me, one of the reasons that I was really excited to play Darla Dudley is because she's actually 8. And for me, I have come from, throughout my 20s, I was very much like that sexy girl, the love interest, the whatever it may be. And so breaking out of that space in my late 20s was really difficult. And what I learned was the fun thing is there's nothing wrong with owning your sexuality and wanting to be beautiful and sexy and strong and all those things. But also it's about, as she was saying earlier, humanizing whatever character you are now living and breathing and finding the things about them that are human and real that people can relate to, that are not just an idea of like, oh, that looks great and like that's awesome, but like who is this person at the core that makes her not just relatable to other people, but especially as being Black women, relatable as a Black woman, because that experience is unique. No matter what the experience is as a woman, you're Black first, and so I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to owning a certain part of it and being happy because we are women. Why should we not lean into all of who we are, but also being able to lean into all of it and being proud of all of it and figuring out how that works for each character. And for me with Darla Dudley, that was like a dream come true because I pretty much am like size somewhere teeter between like 9 and like 50 something in everyday life. So it was nice to not lean into the sexuality at all and lean into the goofy side of me that really only my husband and like my close friends get to see.
all the time.
Now, firsts are important. And I think a lot of us here are firsts, seeing Black superheroes and people of color being superheroes, period. And women of color being superheroes. Nafisa, as half of the popular Anissa Grace couple on Black Lightning, what have you learned from our brothers and sisters in the LGBTQIA plus community? What's been the feedback? What's been the thing? I feel it when I play Garnet, which is a whole other character. But like, what's been the feedback? What's been the thing? Because that's something that is wide and broad, and you stand for something major here, you know?
Thank you. And I'm really honored to play this role, the first Black lesbian superhero, right? Because when I think of that, I think about all the Black lesbians who have not been able to visually see themselves when they go to the cinema or they watch their favorite TV shows. And for me, it's one thing of knowing that there was a void for it, but when you're in that role and you're getting the feedback, you realize the importance of it and how much it's necessary and how much it's needed. And for me, the feedback that I once got, and I feel like Candace, I get emotional, and this is one that sticks out to me every time someone asks me this question, is I was at a Comic-Con and a young woman came up to me and she was full on tears and she said, I feel normal being a lesbian after seeing Thunder. So for me, my job is done. I feel like God has used me in that sense. As storytellers, I believe it's our purpose and it's our duty to tell stories that are important, especially for our culture. So that's the biggest reward of all, knowing that people are seeing themselves. Little girls, when they see my character, they see themselves in the hood with cornrows. We didn't have superheroes who looked like us before.
Amazing.
So speaking of first, as the first Muslim superhero on television, Tala, how important is it for your role as Zari be authentic to your heritage?
It's really important. I think it's more important that it's kind of authentic to her heritage. Obviously, I bring myself to the role and what I am, which is an immigrant, which is an Iranian American. But when I heard she was going to be the first, and I say Muslim American because I think it's really important that we keep the American part of it, because it's so easy to otherize in these situations. And so when it was first Muslim American superhero, I felt the weight of that. And I think the really smart thing that my show did, which every show should do, is that when they hired me, they hired a Muslim American writer.
Wow, that's great.
Shout out to Oba Muhammad, who is a wonderful human and a wonderful writer. So when I heard Muslim American superhero, to bring it back around, I was like, we have to get this right. Representation matters so much. It's so important that little brown girls all over this, not just girls, all little brown children all over the world are seeing someone like me and being like, oh, that opens my mind, that opens possibilities. But also people who, are in maybe parts of our country who will never be exposed to a Muslim American. If they can connect to the character, I feel like we've done our job, And that's just what we're trying to do. I
think it's great that you recognize that it's not just about little girls, because there are some, boys of color that are watching all of you that are feeling inspired because of the roles that you're playing. So, thank you to all of you for doing that, being great representations. So I want to throw a question out there. Anyone can answer. So which of your characters' superpowers would you like to have in real life to combat social injustice that's going on here today?
Yeah, everybody has to answer this one.
This isn't my This isn't my superpower, but I'm on a time travel show, so I have a lot of changes I'd love to make to history. There's a lot of dates. I could there's a date in 2016 in November. I'd go back there first.
Well, Corey can set people on fire, which sounds really violent and terrible, but
why not? I did steal my husband's superpowers in one episode, and became the fastest woman on the planet. So I guess if I had super speed, I would clearly super speed a lot of people out of precarious police interactions.
So my character, Thunder's superpower is super strength. So I use my super strength to arrest the police officers who took the life of Breonna Taylor and countless others. Yeah, that's all I'm really concerned about these days. So that's what I would use my strength for. As I'm using my personal strength to do it, I think Thunder's strength is a bit more intense than mine. So I definitely borrow her strength for that.
Yes.
I take from a different part of Blackfire has some issues with her family. And that means that she's had to spend a lot of time going inside and trying to figure out why she has those issues. And so that's the thing that I would take and I would give everybody right now. I'd give everybody the ability to go inside and truly ask yourself how we got here.
Yeah, I would use shape-shifting power to swap some people out of the office.
That's a pretty good one. I feel we were talking about this, Batwoman doesn't necessarily have a superpower, but I do have the ability to put a mask on and do things that I feel other citizens are too scared to do based off of, it ruining their reputation or it putting their family in danger.
What does being a boss mean to you?
I think being a boss is making more bosses. I think that we have to everybody on this call right now has to give it up for the people who came before us, who took the crap, who showed up every single day with the circumstances that they were handed. I don't think they get enough credit. The stunt people, the people behind the scenes who are editing us, the people whose names never get called when people are accepting their awards at award shows. We are here because of previous bosses, and now it's our obligation to reach down and make even more. It's like making sure that every move that I make, the algorithm is real when it comes to social media, and whether we like it or not, we have no idea who's following us or what it's showing up as. And the reality is they're taking what we do and they're mimicking it. So how do you want to be mimicked? And really, how do you want to show up if bossing is a thing that you want to be forever? So first of all, shout out to all the other bosses on this call, and thank y'all for showing up.
Being a boss means following your heart and also being of service to others.
I think to me, being a boss is knowing that it's bigger than you.
I was going to say that, the word boss, and when this panel came up for me, it reminded me, we also get called divas. And the flip side of that is we also get called difficult, bossy. And for me, being a boss, especially a boss as a Black woman, a woman of color, means standing in that, being okay with being labeled as difficult if it means that I have to stand up for what's right and do the right thing. I've had to learn as I get older to not be afraid as a Black woman to speak up, because I've been taught so much in my life to be quiet, be grateful, don't say too much, don't ask for too much, don't disturb too much, just go with the flow. And, in the last several years of my life, I have been able to find my strength in being able to stand up for myself and for others, more importantly. And I think often we get labeled as divas, difficult, and I love that we changed that title into boss, because that is really being a boss. It's really being a boss. Like when I go to work, I'm a boss. I'm a boss for me and I'm a boss for everyone around me, meaning that I will stand up for you. And if that means that I have to take on a label as being difficult to do the right thing, then that's what it takes, And I think that's what we have to do as Black women is be bosses for each other. So yeah, I'm proud to be a boss.
Yes.
That's great. Thank you for allowing me to be the only man in this conversation.
D-Nice, thank you for being such a blessing to all of us during this pandemic. What you did and took upon yourself to do gave so many of us just light when we truly, truly needed it. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
One more time, we're going to do a roll call. Okay. Do a roll call. Make some noise for Meg again. Make some noise for Karen. Ryan. Make some noise for Chantal Tweed. Make some noise for Jamisa. Make some noise for Adam. Make some noise for Damaris. And make some noise for Tyler.
Hola, mis amigos. I'm Damian Moya from Madrid, Spain. Where are you watching us from? Tweet us your location and your favorite DC superhero with hashtag DC Fandom. One of my favorites is Batman. He's smart, successful, cool, crafty, and I don't know anyone who looks better in a mask. But I have to confess, I'm one of those guys who isn't really sure how one Bat can star in so many different stories and in so many ways. Comics, films, TV, games. Don't worry, I'll watch it all. But I can't help think it takes some real world-greatest detective smarts to pull off a strategy like that. How do the folks at DC do it? Well, we're about to find out, because up next we have a panel dedicated to the legacy of Batman and the Bat family. From the Good Fight, please welcome actor and bona fide Batman blur, Nyambi Nyambi.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Legacy of the Bat, the DC FanDome panel where we take a deep dive not just into Batman's history, but how he has created and inspired protégés that have grown into an extended Bat family. I'm Nyambi Nyambi, and I am pleased to introduce our esteemed panel of Bat experts. So first off, much like the Cape Crusader himself, our first panelist is a legend in the comics industry, Jim Lee.
Hey, how you doing? Exciting to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, thank you. She's the first person to pull Batwoman from the pages of the comics and bring her to life on your TV screens. And soon she'll be ushering an all-new vigilante crime fighter into the world. Please welcome the showrunner for television's Batwoman, Caroline Dries.
Hi.
Caroline, yes. You've already seen the big announcement from this next panelist's new video game, Gotham Knights. So please welcome back the creative director for WB Games Montreal, Patrick Reddick.
Hey, how's it going?
Please, everyone, I want to welcome the legendary John Ridley.
Thank you.
Our next panelist portrays one of the most well-known longtime members of the Bat family. He pushed this character into a whole new light when he uttered just two little words. From Warner Brothers Television's Titans, it's Nightwing himself, Brenton Thwaites.
Hey, guys.
Brenton, you are the first person to play a live-action version of Nightwing, but it's been a journey over the past 2 seasons of the show, and a pretty bold decision was made to kick off the show by having Robin say two little words, the now infamous Batman.
Dick Grayson is not just fighting crime, he's stepping over the line a little bit here. And the Batman was thrown in there to show that he is attempting to break away from Batman, and he's kind of sick of fighting crime in Batman's shadow. And that's kind of what season 1 was about. And then at the end of season 2, obviously, he develops into Nightwing, which is a character that, for me, kind of symbolizes putting away his past and finally developing into this character that can lead and that has a moral compass and that can fight crime in the way that he truly believes.
And then having a new Robin come into play with Jason Todd, what was that like to explore in terms of that relationship?
Jason Todd is a rebellious character who doesn't have the same respect for authority that, let's say, Dick Grayson has. And I think Dick Grayson tries to mentor him and tries to offer up that open channel should Jason want it. And I think that he watches Jason make a few mistakes and tries to step in, and Jason doesn't want that.
So, Dick Grayson and Jason Todd were both mentored by Batman, but there's another member of the Bat family with a different origin. I'm speaking, of course, about Batwoman, because Batwoman's not a sidekick. She never was a sidekick. She entered the Bat family a fully realized superhero, right?
I think the fun that we had with season 1 is Kate, finding her way into being a superhero. It's all about the learning curve. And then it's the moral responsibility of learning, how do I deal with this and how do I best represent the Bat legacy. So it was really just about her arc into becoming the superhero.
It's a very personal story in terms of what Kate Kane is going through. Why was that story so special for you?
So my opportunity as a writer was to say, how do we represent Batman through the eyes of a woman? And in this case, through the eyes of a lesbian woman. And part of her growth was realizing, as Kate, I am a lesbian and I'm open and out and comfortable, but there's this irony in I put on this costume and I automatically hide that thing that makes me so unique. I think an important story that we tell this season is that Batwoman literally comes out of the closet so that people see not just Kate Kane, who's a cool badass CEO, cool girl. I want to see the superhero that I'm looking up to on the rooftop and saying, oh, that is somebody I could be someday.
You're now poised to break even more ground in season 2 with the first Black actress to ever play Batwoman, which is huge.
It's huge. It's awesome. Kate Kane has disappeared in season 2, and it was controversial to the fans because, of course, they love Kate Kane, and so, of course, we're going to keep her part of the show. But it also gave us this really unique opportunity to create a new Batwoman, and I decided to make up a character named Ryan Wilder, who is the opposite of Kate Kane. Ryan Wilder is a character that Batwoman needs to protect. And so it just really provided a new rich storytelling device for us. And we couldn't be happier to have our new Batwoman.
And as a special bonus treat, she just said it, we have Ryan Wilder herself, the new Batwoman, with us here today. Please welcome Javicia Leslie.
Yeah.
And how does it feel to be the new face of Batwoman?
I found out an hour before everybody else found out. So I was pretty shocked along with the entire world. And then I was like looking through some of the articles, and one of the publications put Javicia Leslie is breaking history by being the first Black woman to play Batwoman. And then it changed for me.
Reading, the comics and seeing these superheroes as a Black man, I wouldn't see him as a white guy. I would just see him as Batman. And so then it allowed me to then imagine myself as Batman. So then for the world to actually see someone playing Batwoman, it's such a huge thing to me because I feel like it lets people know that any of us can step into the shoes.
What I love about DC, what I love about WB, what I love about Berlanti is that you have these iconic characters, and they've done this amazing job making them so many different ethnicities and shapes and sizes and things that weren't as typical as you may have imagined when you were a kid and seeing them. And what DC has done, what WB has done, what Berlanti has done is they've showed us that you could be anything, no matter what the color of your skin is.
Now, how do you see this incarnation of Batwoman fitting into the full legacy of the Bat?
Well, at first, she doesn't fit. That's the story. She doesn't fit. Literally, she makes it fit her. And in making it fit her, she makes the Bat accessible to this whole other world of people who normally might not have had a hero to look up to. And so she, puts her stamp on the legacy.
All right, Jim. Okay, you've been doing this for a few years, right?
Yes.
Right? For a few years.
Yeah.
You've been around the block.
Yes.
How many times do you think you've drawn Batman?
I've been at DC since 1998. So I figure I've drawn, 22 years? So at least 22 times, but I think no more than 10,000. So somewhere kind of in between the two, yeah.
So what is it about Batman to you that makes his legacy such a lasting one?
At the core of it, he's the ultimate underdog, right? He's in a world with all these crazy characters with amazing powers, and all he has is his wealth and his smarts and his ambition and sort of obsessive need for justice. So I think we can all relate to him because he's very human in that respect. And I think he also really has something for everyone.
What's also dope about, growing up with Batman is actually growing up with Robin, and how Robin has sort of grown into his own person, becoming Nightwing. Talk about that growth.
The introduction of Robin really kind of changed the tone of the character, from a brooding loner. Now he has this responsibility to a young ward that he's mentoring. It makes him more human and is a path to redemption for himself, right? To find his humanity. It was kind of an important turning point in the character, and has led to this extended Batman family that you see. So we're super excited to announce that we have acclaimed writer John Ridley coming on board. In January of 21, John will be working with artist Nick Darrington, who's fantastic. Would love to hear from John kind of what led him to this character and how he's going to approach it.
A big part of my life has been around Batman, has been around people who choose to do better. And even if some of that is just wish fulfillment, you know, it is part of what we want our young people, kids to believe in, that everybody can be part of the process. And for a long time, as was said, you know, for those of us who are outside of the prevailing culture, it didn't matter the race of Batman or Superman or Wonder Woman. We just identified with the idea of trying to be the fabric of an environment that was better. I think it's a pretty safe bet that if I'm writing Batman, it's probably a little better than a 47% chance he's going to be a person of color. That's what I would say. What's very exciting for me is that I'm going to have the opportunity to delve into the Fox family. So you have Lucius Fox, this character who has been, you know, other than Alfred, probably the person who's been at Batman's side maybe the longest. But he has a family, and this is a family that has secrets, has kept secrets from one another. It's a little bit different dynamic than the Batman that we've always seen.
So everyone loves Batman. He has millions of fans. He has inspired one of the most badass entourages since the OK Corral. And yet there is one amongst us, I see him smiling already, working on a game where Batman is actually dead.
We wanted to take away any certainty, any feeling of safety, so we could take a Gotham City, you know, where Bruce Wayne has been operating as Batman for like 15 years, with all that history, with his whole network of allies, and then take him out of the picture. It really demands players figure out, how would I step up and how would I protect Gotham City?
Let's take a quick look at what's coming out of WB Games Montreal next year.
If you're watching this, I'm dead. We both know it won't take long for Gotham's criminals to realize that Batman is gone. Gotham will need its protectors more than ever.
Okay, so before we wrap up, we have a fan question brought to you by one of Gotham City's good neighbors, Jake from State Farm. We all know Jake from State Farm. Take it away, Jake.
Jim Lee, hello. Wow, I'm a huge fan, and I love your work. I mean, obviously. Okay, let's get to it. So, James from the U.S. asks, when you first started drawing Batman, what or who were your inspirations for your design for that character?
For those of you that collect comics, I think one of my main influences is an artist named Neil Adams. He just brought this, sense of reality, fancy word, verisimilitude to his art. I just looked like it was real, like you go out and touch it. This is before there were movies and TV shows, so this is as good as it got for us. And then there was another artist later, Frank Miller, who, I was in college, and Dark Knight Returns came out, and that was real. That changed my life. I mean, that was the story that kind of inspired me to pursue a career in comics. So when I drew my own story in Hush, I actually started out drawing Batman kind of thick and blocky, kind of like how Frank draws it, kind of homage to Dick Sprang, which was an artist from yesteryear. But then as I drew more and more of the character over the course of the year and a half I worked on that project, by the end it was kind of leaner and looked more like a Neil Adams physique. Those are my two influences.
Clearly, we're all big Batman fans here, right? We're all big Batman fans here. That's why we're here. I'm a fan too. This is one of my many statues that I have here. So I have a fan question for all of you. What would you say is your first memory of Batman?
Obviously, Eartha Kitt was a huge influence because she was the first Catwoman, and to see that role and to see her really be her, because that's her personality in general, it really brought like this sexiness to something that was, to me, originally when I was a kid, I felt like it was a boy's world. Then The Dark Knight came out, and that's when I was insanely addicted to the world of my craft, of my art, and to see Heath Ledger and all these iconic actors play these iconic characters is when I became obsessed.
I gotta say, I'm with Javicia. As a kid, I knew of the world and was a fan of Batman, but it was really the Batman Begins, Nolan's Batman, that really, as an actor, threw me into the world.
I agree. I think that was the first time I saw a superhero movie where I was just expecting it to be a superhero movie, and it was about a character, and it was that, Batman Begins, just how did this boy become this vigilante?
I watched the Adam West TV show as a kid. I remember spending hours playing with the Batmobile and shooting little pellets out of the mortar in the back, and that's kind of my history of the character.
John.
There was a world's finest two-parter from years ago. It was Batman and Superman, who were captured and put into a Soviet gulag in like Siberia. Everything about it was so painful and torturous and grounded, but at the same time, it's about people being heroic when the odds are completely against you.
Patrick Redding.
I think for me, what hit me the hardest was Batman Year One. That struck me the most and made me really fall in love with that character in that world.
Thank you all. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to stick around, and we hope you are enjoying DC FanDome.
So many amazing, world-changing things coming down the Bat Tunnel. But if you can't get enough of the Bat, don't worry, we've got more Bat-related news, never-before-seen content, and director Matt Reeves all right here in the DC FanDome. And it's all coming your way, so stay with us.
There's little bits of there's Batman stuff that is coming in that I don't want to talk about because that stuff is best left as a surprise, and those who get it, and those who don't. But the big Batman mythology character that is coming that we're going to meet this season is Lucius Fox, which is very exciting. Not cast yet, so can't say who's going to play it, but he comes in mid-season and comes in a big way and is pivotal in turning the story around.
Whoa, is that Wonder Woman? She's not got much clothes on, has she? Do you like my new shoes? They're kind of... Well, I don't know, I just like them. My mum likes them, and I like them. We both like them.
I can fight the wind. I can push the wind away. You have to be sly and never trusting anyone and kind of really on the ball.
We're all working from home. And for the most part, when it comes to the pre-production, the script writing, the storyboards, design work, we've successfully transitioned to working at home. It's, not quite as much fun to not be in the office and have everyone together, but we're doing it. That's not a problem. The thing that's been tough, as these guys have indicated, is voice recording, where we used to record everyone together as much as possible in a room for the first 3 seasons. Every once in a while, there was someone who couldn't make a session, and we had to pick up later. But for the most part, we bring everyone together, at least in small groups, if not the whole cast. And that obviously has changed. Everyone is mostly recording one at a time from their closets.
Or their son's lower bunk bed that has like sheets and pillows, and yeah, it's interesting.
Next up, we have a special musical performance by Grammy-nominated multi-platinum recording artist Chris Daughtry. Inspired by the Man of Steel himself, the song was the lead single from Daughtry's 2013 album, Baptized. And we're so glad to have him here to perform this today. This is Waiting for Superman.
This is called Waiting for Superman.
Locked inside of
son. Hey, what's up, everybody? Chris Daughtry here again. Hope you guys are digging DC FanDome. Please check out our live from home version of our latest single, World on Fire. Hope you dig it.
I just love how the DC fandom is connecting fans from across the globe. We are all so different, but today we all have one thing in common: our love for DC superheroes. Okay, turning things over to Clara. Clara, take it away.
Thanks, Damian. It's Clara here from the UK, and it is great to be here with all of you. And what an amazing show so far. Are you guys having fun? I know you are, but do make sure you tweet us using the hashtag DCFandom and let us know how we're doing. Now, when I think about our beloved DC superheroes, I think about how inspirational they all are. I'm talking Superman, Wonder Woman, all of them I love. Look, you can see they always put a massive smile on my face.
Now let's get this party started! There are so few surprises left in the universe.
This is gonna hurt.
If the world is full of monsters, the only way to defeat them is to become one yourself.
Oh, I love it! The chaos is so invigorating!
Now, we should have known those guys wouldn't take a day off from all the mischief and all the mayhem. And let's just be honest, no one loves the spotlight more than a DC supervillain. So it looks like it's time for the Hall of Heroes to become the Hall of Villains. And personally, I'm all for it because DC has got the best, the Joker, who has undergone many iterations since his debut in 1940. And although I wouldn't want him plotting against me, I have to say, his choice in lipstick is pretty much perfect. So let's put a smile on our faces and have an in-depth look at one of the best baddies ever. Here's the Joker.
You can call me the Joker.
The Joker is the greatest supervillain ever created.
I was a fan of the comic books, and particularly of the Joker.
Biblical time, David and Goliath to Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty. I thought the stronger the villain, the stronger the hero. The Joker sprang into mind because the cards were a big part of my family.
It is that carnival mask of a clown that hides the horror lurking just below the surface.
The Joker is a horrific version of Batman. Whereas Batman scares criminals, Joker scares the ordinary people.
In the 1950s, you have a censorship movement which leads to the Comics Code Authority, which really is why all characters in the 1950s get goofy and weird.
The writers and artists of the era felt very restricted. It was a dark time for America. There was an urgent need for heroes.
1966's Batman became a pop art campy comedy. Cesar Romero's playful, prank-loving Joker stole the show. As culture took a turn for the revolutionary, writer Denny O'Neil introduced the idea that the Joker was truly insane.
We undid 15, 20 years of lousy comics code. So you got a tremendous amount of experimenting.
It left the way for people like me, Alan Moore, to do stories that were beyond the understanding of an 8-year-old.
Batman, the Killing Joke, showed us how deep the Joker's depravity could go.
It's basically a horror story. The Killing Joke was the first time that anybody really started taking him deadly serious.
It's epic. It's Joker's magnum opus.
The Joker stories of the 1980s set the stage for a Joker that would twist the theatrical, colorful, with the violence and insanity.
Jack Nicholson as the Joker, that was just everybody's first choice. It goes beyond your expectations just because he's so good.
Even in my own life, people have said, but sometimes, Jack, relax with the humor.
Oh, I got a live one here.
This does not apply to the Joker.
Gotham City was brought to younger audiences in 1992 when Batman, the animated series, debuted on Fox Kids.
One of the things that informs the Joker is his laugh. His laugh should be like a musical instrument. It should illustrate his mood.
He struck a nice balance between the clown and the killer and really made him a scary character.
Filmmaker Christopher Nolan elevated the comic book film. The gritty, realistic Batman of this Gotham City called for a villain who could challenge him in a way no one else could. From the outset, the choice was clear.
And to me, it was creating a sort of psychologically credible anarchist, a purposeless criminal, a psychopath. To me, that is the most frightening form of evil.
It's somebody without any rules whatsoever. Somebody whose motive is just pure destruction.
Without Batman, I'm not sure that the Joker would exist in the way that he does in our movie.
You complete me.
Joker is one of those rare opportunities you get to reinterpret, bring back to life some character that provides some counterpoint to the good of the world.
The trick was to be incredibly respectful, yet at the same time, reinvent the Joker.
Audiences were in for a laugh when comedian Zach Galifianakis voiced the clown prince of crime, bringing his own brand of humor to the role and new meaning to the words, "You complete me."
They do depend on each other. And what would happen if they both took a step back and understood that to be the situation?
I hate you.
Me too.
The Joker had been taken in brave new directions, but there was still room to push the character even further.
I never really thought about doing a comic book movie. For me, it was more about this idea of doing a film, but about somebody people have no idea who, what, where he came from.
It's a wonderful exploration to take probably the most famous villain. What happens if we humanize this person?
I think part of his transformation is finding his voice, finding Joker. And I think prior to the emergence of Joker, he's struggling with what it is that he wants to say, how he wants to say it.
Every kid loves this guy, and I particularly love just the name, Joker. It's fantastic.
There's no definitive Joker. He will be reinterpreted long after I'm gone because he's just such a great character.
Who knew the Joker had such a rich history? But hang on a minute, of course you guys did. You're all the experts. Now, Jim Lee is an expert in all things DC. He is a world-renowned comic book artist, writer, editor, and publisher. And he's got his eye on some supervillain art. Take a look.
Hello, everyone. This is Jim Lee again. I'm here with Mohammed Haq, and we are going over his fabulous submissions to the DC FanDome. He is a big Batman fan, and he has a day job. So he does this spectacular artwork in his spare time. And I'm just going to kind of give him some feedback and hopefully kind of encourage him to keep pushing himself, as we should all push ourselves as we try to become and strive to become better artists. And you are here in the U.S.?
California, LA.
Okay, that's part of the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, it's all good. All right, so you're super close because I'm in LA too. First off, let me just say thank you very much for submitting your work to DC FanDome. I loved all your single piece illustrations. Is this something that you're doing now professionally? Can you talk a little bit about your work, and do you do panel-to-panel work too, or is it all just single images, covers, that kind of thing?
I pretty much draw or paint digitally for fun, as a hobby. I'm a creative director. I work on figures, collectible figures, pretty much art directing or doing concepts.
It seems like some of these are like almost like poster images. Walk me through like this one. Like
Mr. Freeze is such a cool character. I seen artists draw his costume to be very simple, but I want to see him in more of a armor type, even more of an armor type design.
And then even as you're doing this, are you imagining it in color, even though this is a black and white or tonal drawing?
No, actually, when I draw, I don't think in color at all. I just draw a sketch, and once I'm done, if I feel like, you know what, I could add some color to it, then I'll add some color to it.
The reason why I asked you if thought in color as you did this is because in my head, I'm seeing this in color, right? I'm seeing like this as a pencil drawing and create the light source using color. I love the tonal graduations, but maybe if there was if the light source are here, like coming out of this gun, what happens to this part of the figure with a stronger light source there, right? This part here, like, suggests to me like you were on this path of, hey, there's light up here, and it's casting the shadow of this torso on this kind of pelvic area. If it were brighter here, and then here, just in general, like on this side,
right,
and then darker. Maybe that arm, like.
Totally.
What inspired this?
The first issue of Deceased.
Are there other things could have done to maybe give focus up here where, it starts getting like more out of focus at the bottom, like a little more painterly? It's just something to think about. I just think your use of color and textures, creating that glistening kind of gum line, it's really, really well done. But again, what happens if it gets a little darker around the fringes?
No, I get what you're saying.
Right.
We're focusing on the eye right now, right?
Yeah.
So focused, you're not sure what you're looking at.
What happens if you play around with that I'm trying to have like that light streaming off to the side, right?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Just like make certain things pop and kind of play around with the contrast, the values of your colors, right? Push it more to the extremes. You're really super solid in this middle ground. What happens if you push the extremes of light and dark to the image? So things to think about as you do it, but really, really solid piece. So this Joker piece, same thing with Mr. Freeze. You've got the lettering in here. I feel like you started and then kind of stopped. You were in there, maybe you were going to go all the way to the top, and then you're like, I've said my piece. I know what would look like. Generally, you should use it as a real part of the composition, right? Even those lettering, right? And what kind of shape it occupies, and it just kind of fits naturally in the same kind of space. Kind of creates this squared composition, and I kind of wonder if you have something like that, and then maybe all that, maybe it falls in like a big ha, or something, right? Where all the lettering,
or it creates the bat symbol or something like that. Or
even like a shat, or even his shadow, right?
Right.
Like if he's uplit, and then in the coloring of it, the lettering would be darker, and that's how you would see that shadow. Just something to think about. I think because if you're going to add the lettering, I feel like once you start, you got to think it through and say, okay, what am I doing with the lettering? What role does it play in the composition? What kind of extra thing does it give? What does it unlock? And I think it unlocks a lot. I'll just end with this one. I think this is my favorite piece. I get a Frank Quitely vibe from it, but I also love the way you did the coloring, and I think you did push it on this one. Like that thin white highlight on the edge is just perfect. It really picks it up, and it's not monochromatic, but you have a red kind of light across all of it, and that's the kind of stuff I love. It's not about local color; it's about colors interacting with the light that's on them, and I think you just really nailed it. And the expression, and even again the subtlety of her, of her hand gesture. I think you really sold in this one, and that's why that also really works for me as well, right? Mom, I want to thank you for sharing your talent with us. I looked through all the submissions, and I picked my 5 favorite, and your work really stood out to me as something really unique and special. And I hope that you do more of it beyond just as a hobby for fun. I think there's a lot of great potential there, and just little things like would elevate it to like the next level up. And just ask that you think about it and maybe challenge yourself the next time you sit down and draw.
No, I really appreciate it, Jim. I really do. It means a lot. I'll say I'm self-taught drawing and coloring, all that, but it's your work that actually helped me get where I am right now when it comes to drawing.
Awesome. So, thank you very much. It's very flattering. Yeah.
Those art submissions